Chapter 1. Old Enemies. Alias. Still holding the phone in my hand, I crushed it in my hands, letting the small pieces fall onto the hard concrete. Aiden and Adonis stared at me, wondering what the hell was going on. Even Natalie was looking at me strange. Alias, what's wrong? Adonis asked. Sighing, I turned to Aiden. You stay with her. I told him. Why? Aiden asked. How am I going to get back to the house? You can drive my car. Natalie told him. Then she glanced my way. Is everything okay? We'll meet at the clinic. I told her. Get fixed up. Alias. What? Aiden stopped as soon as I gave him the look. Fine. Natalie and Aiden walked off, leaving Adonis and I alone. What happened? Adonis asked me. Without saying anything to him, I got back into the car. Adonis hopped in on the passenger side before he turned back to me. It's the girls, isn't it? He finally asked. I started the car and sped away from our current location, heading straight for the house. Someone broke into the house, I finally said. Adonis sighed. He was feeling the same way. The thing is, I was hoping that they didn't take Jess. That was what I was really worried about. When we got to my house, I didn't park in the driveway. Adonis and I jumped out of the car and raced to the door that was now laying on the floor. There was a lot of blood, and just from the smell alone, I could tell what it was human. Adonis and I walked inside, and our attention turned to the stairs, where Mia laid, beaten up and half unconscious. Mia. Adonis shouted as he ran to her side. He grabbed her up and held him in her arms. Her breath was rapid, and she reeked of blood. Her clothes was covered in blood stains, and they were also torn. I walked over to the stairs and kneeled down. Mia, I said her name calmly. What happened? Mia's eyes kept opening and shutting, but she was able to say some words. Not human, she whispered. Leve. Th. She closed her eyes, and Adonis glanced at me. Take her in my car. I told him, tossing him the keys to my car. I'll meet you guys there. Adonis grabbed the keys before he picked me up in his arms. When he got to the door, he turned back to me. What are you going to do? He asked me. I'm going to look around for something. I'll be there, though. Adonis nodded before he turned and rushed out of the house. I got up and looked around the house. Everything in the living room was totaled. I balled my fists up as my anger surfaced. I needed to find out who they were, and fast. There was no telling what they were going to do to Jess and our child. I leaned against the wall and slammed my head back, cracking the wall in an instant. What the hell happened here? I heard a familiar voice. I turned my head and saw my father and Uncle Kieran in the doorway. They glanced around the place as they made their way over to me. I don't know. I told them. What the hell you mean, you don't know? Father asked me, where's Jessalyn? Uncle Kieran asked me. I pushed myself off the wall and walked past them. They took her. I told them. And you allowed that to happen. Father asked me, irritating me more. I stopped walking and snapped my head in his direction. Don't fucking go there with me. I told him. I didn't let shit happen. Then where the fuck were you while this was going down? He was pushing my buttons. I wanted to sock the fuck out of him, right then and there. When I took a step forward, Uncle Kieran got between us. I understand you're upset, but we're trying to help you. Kieran explained. You sure? I asked him. Because it seems like you came to complain more than help. Father glared at me, and trust me, my anger was towards him as well. He was always like that, and I hated him for it. Matter of fact, I wasn't even sure why the hell he was at my house in the first place. Why are you here? I asked him as I went back to searching the house for some more clues. I know it wasn't to pick a fight with me. We came to see if you were all right, Father said, walking up to me. We saw Aiden and some girl at the clinic. We wanted to know why she looked beat up and abused. And you expected me to fucking know it. You act like we never seen you with her before, Alias. We knew you were fucking her. Then you should know that I don't put hands on women. Father closed his mouth, and before I could say something else, a scent brushed past my nose. It didn't belong to the girls either. I walked off from the both of them and went over to where the scent grew stronger. When he got back to the front, I put my nose towards the door frame. My blood boiled. I recognized that fucking scent, and it brought back memories of a certain someone who I had a run-in with on my 18th birthday. And as I pieced together everything, I already had my suspect. What? Father asked me. I leaned back up and turned to them. It didn't take me long to figure everything out. Now I was getting somewhere, and that brought a smile to my face. I know who did it. I told them before I walked over to the living room drawer that was connected to the TV stand. I took a set of keys out for another car, since I let Adonis leave with Mia in the one I drove in earlier. You want to fill us in? Uncle Kieran asked. I can do that on our way back to the clinic, I told them. Then you'll ride with us, Father said, and walked towards the front door. When he got to the door frame, he stopped and sniffed. He turned to Uncle Kieran and then he glanced over at me. Is that what I think it is? He asked me. It is, I told him. What do you smell? Uncle Kieran asked. They tried to mask their scent, I told him. I removed my jacket and threw it on the couch. The only ones who do that is werewolves, I told him, when they try to be discreet. But why would werewolves target you? Father asked me. We never had an issue with them before. They stayed in their lane and we stayed in ours. I sighed and shook his head. I had an encounter with one, I told them. When? Uncle Kieran asked. Father crossed his arms and shook his head at me. On my 18th birthday, I said. When Adonis, Aiden, and I went to that nightclub. Uncle Kieran and Father just stared at me. I think you three got some explaining to do. Uncle Kieran said. You're riding with us. Uncle Kieran and Father walked out, while I decided to put the front door back on the hinges. I was still trying to figure out why Lucas was trying to come for me now. Our fight happened many years ago. All I knew was that I needed to hurry and find this wolf before he tried to do anything to Jessalyn. If any harm was to come to her and my child, I swear I was not going to be out for blood. As I fixed the door up, another thought crossed my mind. And it wasn't a good one either. What if I lost her to Lucas? What if his charms persuaded her to be his mate? Just thinking about that caused me to lose my cool. I socked the exterior wall and groaned when I caused another crack to appear on this house. Calm down, Alias. Father shouted at me. Keep beating up your house, and you won't have one to live in. I rolled my eyes before I turned around and walked towards Uncle Kieran's car. I was starting to regret letting Adonis use my car. Now, I had to ride with these two. The deal. Jessalyn. I turned around and saw that Alias and them didn't come. I couldn't figure out what they were planning, but I was curious to know what Lucas wanted from Alias. Just seeing my fiancé again made me feel good, but I wish he would just kill Lucas and take me away from that fucking place. I hated being with them. I wanted to be with my baby daddy again and my friends. So, what are you going to do with Alias? one of the girls asked. Lucas glanced over at me and smiled. Maybe he could help me get rid of those fuckers I've been having to deal with for the longest. Do you think he would really help you with that? I mean, we're talking about fucking vampires, for God's sake. Fangers. Another wolf said. I understand, but I'll do anything to get them fuckers out of here. I hate vampires, but I despise others of my kind who thinks they're better than we are. I sat in quiet as I listened to Lucas complain to his pack. But do you think you can trust them? The guy asked Lucas. He's going to have to do what I say after all. I have his baby mama. I placed my hand on my stomach, trying to keep calm. Lucas walked over to me and kneeled down to where our faces were close. I would like to see what he sees in this beauty. Lucas whispered as he caressed the side of my face. I remember when Alias was a fucking bachelor dude, was fucking everything in sight. Hearing about Alias past made me cringe. Lucas stopped smiling and made a sad face. Did that upset you? I didn't answer him. That's the reason why we have beef now. Lucas explained to me. He stole what was mine. I see you like to follow the same trend. I said to him. Lucas chuckled and licked his lips. One thing you don't know about me, baby girl. Lucas said to me, I don't copy anybody I do what they did to me, but I do it worse. Lucas got up, his eyes still staring at me. If Alias doesn't come through, I'll just turn her. Lucas announced. That'll be my gift for him taking my love away from me. His love. What was he talking about? Who was he talking about? Lucas smiled at me. Oh, you don't know who I'm talking about. He asked me. I sat there just staring into space. Alias never really told me about the women he was messing with. She never heard of Natalie Boss. Ty said. Nor did I even want to. To hear that bothered me the most. I wasn't ready to hear about Alias flings. It just turned my stomach whenever I heard about my baby daddy fucking on those many women. I wonder what's taking them so long. The girl said. They'll be here. Lucas said. Especially Alias. So are you going to keep her hostage? Ty asked. No. She's going to go with Alias. We know where they stay and we know her scent. If Alias doesn't come on his part of the deal, she'll be mine. Alias. Where are they? I asked, getting irritated. Calm down. They'll be here. Aiden said. I turned and faced my little brother. We could have been there already, but Aiden and Adonis assisted that I call for backup, just in case. You would always do things your way. I heard Mother's voice. Well, why would I want to include you old bats? I asked sarcastically. We're not that old, Alias. Father said. Whatever. I walked away from them, heading into Lucas territory. The sound of growls were heard, as there were a lot of wolves around me. Ignoring them, I continued to the location where Lucas' scent was the strongest. I stopped as I approached a big wooden house. There was a few of Lucas' members outside, posted. So, you finally fucking came. One of the guys said to me. Thought you had ran off like a fucking bitch. Never. I said to him. I came to get what belonged to me. Jerry, stop. The girl from before said as she came out the house. Come inside, Alias. I glanced behind me, making sure the others had followed. Mother and father stood close to me, their eyes scanning their surroundings. We were all about to follow, but the girl intercepted my mother. Mother shoved the girl back and a growl escaped her lips. Lucas wants you by yourself. The girl said. Your family can stay out here with the rest of us. I turned and glanced at Adonis and Aiden. They were being cautious. I sighed and walked inside the house, closing the door behind me. There was nobody inside the place except for Jessalyn and Lucas. The two sat at the table, waiting for me to come. When my eyes landed on Jessalyn, she wouldn't even look at me. It was clear Lucas said something to her. "Are you hurt?" I asked her. "She's mad at you," Lucas said with a sadistic smirk on his face. "It seems you like to keep things hidden from her wife. Fiancé. Gets it right. Really?" Jessalyn asked me. Her eyes landed on mine and tears had fallen. I turned back to Lucas, who put his arm around her to comfort her. "Now, shall we talk business?" Lucas asked me. "I don't have any business with you." "You will. How about we have a drink?" Lucas removed his arm from Jessalyn and walked over to the bar. "Leave her," Lucas said. "You two will have a lot to talk about later." I continued to stare at Jessalyn. She would not make eye contact with me at all. She was really hurting, and I hated that. Sighing, I walked over to the bar, waiting for this drink Lucas was preparing. "What do you want from me?" I asked him. See, I'm a very generous wolf. I love to make things right. I rolled my eyes when he said that. That bitch had his men break into my house and take my fiancé out of it. What the fuck was he even talking about? "I'm going to release your fiancé to you," Lucas said. "On one condition, you deal with someone for me." What the fuck? I look like a bounty hunter. Lucas chuckled as he handed me a glass with purple liquid in it. I looked at the glass before my eyes went back up to his. "Don't trust me, Alias?" Lucas asked me. "No," I told him. "Wolves are liars in my eyes." Lucas laughed. He nodded his head and poured himself a drink, then downed it in front of me. "I can understand that," he said. "Well, your loss. It's a very good beverage, I'm sure." Lucas put his cup down and glanced back at me. "I need you to handle some wolves for me." Lucas continued. "Well, a pack you handle them for me, and I'll leave you and your almost betrothed alone." Lucas irked me. He would try to make a deal with me on a bad day. What if I don't? I asked him. Lucas chuckled and pointed at Jessalyn. "Then she would become one of us." I raised an eyebrow at him. He was out of his fucking mind. There was no way my fiancé was going to be a fucking wolf. "You sure you want to do that?" I asked him, pushing the drink to the side. "Oh, it will happen," Lucas said. "If you want a war, then you can definitely get one." I glanced at Jessalyn, who had a worried look in her eyes. My eyes snapped back over to Lucas, and his escaped my lips. "What did you do to her?" I asked him. "Nothing yet," Lucas said. "But I will be sending a couple of my men to tag along with you to help you get the work done." "I don't want no help from a dog." Lucas nodded at me and grabbed the glass cup from my hand. "Your mama taught you well," Lucas said. "Never take drinks from an enemy." I kept quiet, but my eyes never left Lucas. "Now, do I have this deal with you?" "No arguing, no fighting, and nothing. I'm releasing your fiancé to you now. All I just want is your cooperation." I was going to say something, but Jessalyn's voice caught me off. "Please, Alias," she begged me. "Just take it. I want to go home." Taking a deep breath and got up from the bar stool. Not really given much of a choice, I decided to make the right decision. Even if the shit killed me. "Fine," I told him, extending my hand. "We have a deal." The argument. Jessalyn. "Good," Lucas told him. "Now, I will discuss everything with you tomorrow." "Sounds good." My eyes darted over to Alias, who was still standing there. "Fine," Alias said in a low tone. "Now, Get the fuck out of my bar. And take your human with you. Alias turned to me, and he extended his hand. I shook my head and got up from the table. Then I walked out of the building behind him. The both of us walked past everybody without saying a word to anybody, including each other. What I found out about Alias really angered me, but it mostly made me question him. I could understand why Lucas was mad at Alias. He took someone who was valuable to him. Is everything okay? I heard Adonis ask. I'm going to need you to go with my parents. Alias told his cousin. I'll explain everything once I get back over there. What are you going to do? Adonis asked. Alias sighed and turned his head to get a glimpse at me. When Adonis seen my face, he turned back to Alias and nodded his head. Okay, Adonis said. I'll be at your house, and I'm going to fix the door for you while I'm there. All of us made it to my car, and not long afterwards, everybody left, leaving the two of us behind. I got to his car, and I waited for him to unlock the door for me. He didn't even bother to move. He just stood there, staring at me. Let's do this, Alias said to me. Do what? I asked him with a cracked voice. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You haven't said shit to me, and on top of that, you are ignoring me. So, what the fuck he say to you to get you worked up and distant from me? Why would you think that, Alias? Stop playing with me. I sighed and shook my head at him. I never understood the shit you do. I told him, glancing down at the car. Okay, so it's clear you're mad because he told you about the girl, so spill it. Jessalyn, tell me what the fuck you got to say so we can squash it. Are you serious, Alias? I'm mad because I was taken from your home. It was like you don't fucking care about me at all. Alias crossed his arms over his chest, staring at me. I don't care about you. I didn't have to bring my ass down here to save some fucking mortal from a pack of wolves. If I was really back to my old ways, I would have let them kill you. Then why didn't you? Alias, if I'm such a fucking burden, why didn't you? Is it because of me carrying your child? Is that it? Alias glanced down at the ground and I sighed. Who is this girl he was talking about? I asked him, already getting a sick feeling in my stomach. He didn't say anything. I shook my head and crossed my arms over my chest that time. I was still waiting for him to answer. Is she the reason you left in a rush? I asked him as I began to piece things together. It wasn't like that, Alias said. I just helped her out because she was being abused. I chuckled, trying to keep the tears from coming. Your child and I were taken and held hostage while you were over here, playing hero to an ex-girl that you were messing around with before me. You're making a big deal out of nothing, Jessalyn. I was taken back by his words. A big deal over nothing. Alias sighed and unlocked the car door. Then his eyes lifted to mine. Get in the car, he told me. I'm not getting in your car until you tell me what the fuck is going on. You've been leaving me in the dark. For too long am I going to be the fucking target of every one of your enemies? How many more people are you going to piss off? Alias sighed and walked over to me. He looked angry, but I didn't care. I moved back as he got in close. You're going to make this difficult, aren't you? He asked me. I won't budge until you start answering my goddamn questions, I told him. He chuckled and put his hands in his pockets. You think I have time to be answering your dumb-ass questions, Jessalyn? I have to deal with this shit now, thanks to you. Thanks to me. Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, thanks to you. If you weren't so fucking weak, maybe we wouldn't be in this fucking predicament. Oh, I'm so sorry that I wasn't born a full-blooded fanger, Alias. I'm sorry that I don't possess the same abilities as you or your family possess. You watch your fucking words. His eyes changed to a bloody red color. I'm not going to repeat myself after this get your ass in the fucking car. The bass in his tone sent chills down my spine. He's never sounded like that during our arguments, so I knew he was angry as ever. But I was angry too. It seemed like because I was with him, things were never going to change, and that's what I hated. I know he was tired of the enemies as well. Shit, I would be. Now, Jessalyn, Alias said, calmer than usual. I sighed and waited as he opened the car door for me. My eyes scanned the area before I got into his vehicle. Alias slammed the door shut, then he walked over to his side to get it. Once he was in, he started the car, then he pulled away from the wolf territory. We're not done. I hope you know that. I said to him. We never are, Jessalyn, Alias said, shaking his head. You always got to make a fucking big deal out of every goddamn thing. Whose fault is that? The talking ceased as the sound of thunder caught our attention, with lightning following right behind it. Then the heavy rain came. Fucking great, Alias said. Just great. Lost. Alias. Damn it. I shouted, hitting the steering wheel. Arguing with Jessalyn, and it began raining. Jessalyn sighed, turning the other side where the window was. She was mad, and I could feel it. Are you hungry? I asked her. She didn't respond to me. Getting annoyed, I stopped the car. I leaned over to her, and she finally turned to me. When I ask you something, answer my fucking question. I told her. What, Alias? She asked me. Her heart was beating hard in my head after she said that. It was clear she didn't mean it. I already knew that. Shaking my head, I leaned back over in my seat and started driving again. Alias, do you love this girl? She asked me again. I'll back off if you want me to. What kind of stupid shit is that? What's stupid about it? You're making me feel this way. I snapped my head in her direction, and the look she gave me wasn't a happy one. Are you kidding me right now? Alias, just answer me, please. Why can't I get an honest answer from you? Because it's a dumb question. If I cared about her, I damn sure wouldn't be with you right now. She stopped talking and turned back to the front. I could see the little tears in her eyes falling down her face. So, that meant you didn't love me when I was taken. She told me. Jessalyn, I do love. Alias. Before I could get the sentence out and turn my eyes back to the road, the car hit something hard and I went flying out of the window. I slid across the concrete hard before it passed out. Jessalyn. I opened my eyes and scanned the area. When I tired to move, something pinned me down with great force. I looked down and I gasped as fear struck me. A thick tree branch pierced me in the stomach, where my unborn child was supposed to be. Panicking, I looked around, trying to find something to help me out of the damaged car. More tears rolled down my cheeks. There were no movements, and I couldn't help but to cry uncontrollably. Alias. I said his name, softly. There was no response from him. I wondered if he was okay. My hands traveled to my stomach, hoping to feel a kick. There was nothing. Alias. I shouted his name. I heard a grunting noise from the ground. Then Alias got up from the ground, slowly. He turned his head, cracking it in the process. Alias. Alias finally turned to me, then he walked over to me. My eyes were getting droopy, as I was looking a lot of blood from the puncture wound. Are you okay? Alias asked me, then he came to abrupt stop. He stared from the tree back to the car. Then his eyes looked up at me with a worried expression on his face. He came over to me and snatched the door off the hinges. When he saw me, he kneeled beside me. Alias, our baby, I cried softly. He pressed his head against mine. I have to get you to the hospital, he said to me. Maybe my mom can remove it without doing too much damage. I shook my head at him. As much as that idea would have worked, I had to realize that there was no way our child could be saved. Alias grabbed the branch and I screamed in pain. He pulled away as fast as he could and cursed to himself. Jess, I'm so sorry. He apologized. I should have gotten us home safely, instead of arguing with you. Alias, it's not your fault, I told him. I closed my eyes and Alias snapped his fingers at me. Stay awake for me. Don't go to sleep. I'm going to call my cousin, okay? I nodded my head and tried my hardest to stay up, but the amount of blood I was spilling was taking its toll of me. Alias reached into his pocket and retrieved his phone. I'm going to call for help. Alias said to me, please, don't fall asleep. I sat there with slanted eyes, watching him get up and call like he said he was. Once he finished, he put his phone away and turned back to me. Alias. I called his name. Yes, he said. Can you hear it? Hear what? The baby. Alias didn't say anything about it. He tried to switch the subject, and that just made me angry. Why do you act like we didn't create anything? I asked him, getting sad all over again. Did you regret having a child with me? Alias sighed and shook his head. No, I didn't, he said. Then what, Alias? He sighed, and we stared at each other for a minute. There's nothing we can do, he said. Alias. Jessalyn, stop. I closed my mouth and looked the other way. Right now, I care about keeping you alive, she said. I turned back to him, shocked about what he said. Did he even care about our child that we just created? I sighed, covering my face up. Alias. Adonis shouted. I dropped my hands and looked out the window. Adonis, Aiden, and Kieran rushed over to us. As Kieran rushed to my side, he froze. Immediately. Alias, what happened? He asked his nephew. It wasn't his fault. I told him. It was mine. Kieran turned to me, then looked down at my wound. What about the... I glanced back down at my stomach. There was still no movement at all in Kieran's side. Help me get her out, Alias said. We're going to have to bring the branch with us. Adonis said. We can't take it out of her here. I understand. Alias rushed to the branch and broke it. I groaned as I began feeling pain from Alias breaking the tree branches from it. Kieran and Aiden moved pieces of the car from around my legs so they could pick me up. What the fuck happened? Kane shouted as soon as he arrived. He rushed over to me, and as soon as he seen the branch impaled into my stomach, he turned his gaze from me to Alias. That was the first time Alias couldn't even look at his father. Well, I thought he should have after he was sucked in the jaw by him. You follower. Alias. I dropped to the ground, wiping the blood from my mouth. My eyes stared up at my father's, who was pissed off. What do you hear? He asked me. I didn't say anything. Father got down on his knees and hit me once more. That time, I allowed him to do so. What do you hear, Alias? Nothing, I whispered. He balled his fist up, ready to take another swing at me. Hell, I didn't blame him. I was the cause of my unborn's death. Something I didn't ever want to happen. And it did. Father shook his head at me and got up from the wet ground. He walked over to Jessalyn and picked her up from the car. Jessalyn groaned in pain, holding on to my father's neck. Blood dropped onto the ground from her dress as Father carried her away. "Get rid of this car," Father told me. "The rest of you follow me. He needs to think about what he has done." Adonis and Aiden glanced back at me. Of course, they wanted to stay by my side, but I couldn't let them. I needed to be alone. That day was not a great one. As soon as the others left, I walked back over to the spot where Jessalyn was and stood there. My eyes stared at the bloody puddle that pooled from her wound. I socked the hood of the car as I recognized another scent from the blood in the seat of my car. "Daddy's sorry," I whispered. "I'm so fucking sorry. I never cried over anything in my life, but this was one of them." Leaning against the car, I let the tears fall and they didn't stop. Well, until I heard a chuckle from down the street. "Wow, Alias," Lucas said to me. "Never thought you would break down over a deceased child." I grabbed the hood of the car and dug my nails into it. "What do you want?" I asked him through gritted teeth. "Just came to see what the commotion was all about. So that accident was because of you." "Fuck off, Lucas." Lucas chuckled as he moved closer to my damaged car. "I know you're not upset over a child." I balled my fists up. He was crossing the line with his choices of words. "I think you better leave. I'm just saying you act like you can't just make another one." Lucas was a disgusting fucker. My eyes snapped in his direction and my hands shook from wanting to grab his neck and twist it. "Huh. That's right. Just stand there like a lost fanger that you are. You Venblacks have always been weak in my EY." Tackling him to the wet ground, I had the advantage. I grabbed him by his collar and he laughed. "You won't fight me," he said to me through laughter. "You don't know what I'm capable of." I told him. "You have the right one today." Before I was able to continue, someone shoved me off. I got off the ground and my eyes landed on one of the guys that was in his pack. He growled at me with glowing red eyes. Lucas got off the ground and laughed again. "I told you, you won't fight me." Lucas reminded me. "What do you want, Lucas?" I asked him, but my eyes never left his partner. "Just to remind you of what you need to do if you want your bitch to survive." My eyes moved to him and he smirked at me. "I didn't forget." I told him. "Good. I just wanted to make sure you weren't going to run." "I never run from my problems, Lucas." "You must be referring to someone else." Lucas smiled at me and nodded his head. "I forgot. You like to touch things that don't belong to you, I wonder. Who did Jessalyn belong to before you contaminated her with your dead child?" I raised my finger up at him, walking closer. Of course, his pack member had to get in between me. I would refrain from talking shit about my child. I told him. "He or she hasn't done anything to you." "I'm sorry." Lucas chuckled. "That was my fault. I just thought it was funny to find you caring about something that you can recreate over and over again. You're so fucking lucky your partner is with you." "Oh, to be honest, I can deal with you, myself. The thing is that I need you to handle that problem of mine." I stared at him for the longest time. He gave me a fake pout with puppy dog eyes. "Come on, Alias. I was only kidding. We can joke around, can't we? I mean, we're allies for right now, right? Fuck you and fuck your alliance. You're lucky I agreed to this." He stopped talking, but a smile stayed on his face. "And I'm going to make sure you do it too," he said, then turned to his partner. "This here is a loyal wolf of mine, Lincoln. What the fuck am I going to do with a dog?" Lincoln glared at me with nothing but hatred. From now on, He'll be in your care. Make sure he comes back to me safe once the mission is complete." Lucas turned and walked off. "I hope you fucking know it's going to take a minute for this to be complete, right?" I asked him. "Oh, Alias." Lucas stopped and turned back to me. "You're a fanger, so there should be no long waits coming from this new quest of yours. I'll give you a month. If it doesn't get complete by then, well, you and your mortal fiancé can definitely die together. It depends on how caring you are. I mean." Lucas chuckled and continued on his way, leaving me with Lincoln. I hissed before I turned back towards the car. "Help me move this car, dog," I said to him. "Unless you're trying to die here fast, I suggest you choose a better word," Lincoln said to me. I turned my eyes to him, and he just stared back at me without another word. I rolled my eyes and walked back to the car. Placing my hands against the side, I pushed hard on the car, causing it to away from the tree. Lincoln came over and helped me. We managed to get the car over to the middle of the road. Then I called a tow truck. "You better not start shit here," I told Lincoln as soon as we got to the clinic. "Don't start with me, and I won't start with you," Lincoln remarked. I was tired of his attitude. Trust me, I didn't want the fucking dog to follow me, either. However, Lucas insisted on me being with me. So, here we are. We walked inside, and immediately, Adonis approached me. "What the hell is this?" he asked, giving Lincoln a dirty look. "Lucas' gift to me," I said sarcastically. "You have got to be kidding me." Aiden asked. One dog meets another." I sighed. "Fuck you, Alias," Aiden said. The frown on his face let me know he was tired of my shit. A chuckle escaped the back of my throat. "How is she?" I asked him. "Why don't you go check on her?" Kane asked as he came over to us as well. "I take it he's with Lucas." I didn't respond. Kane pointed down the hall, and I sighed before heading over there. As I got closer to the room, I could hear Jessalyn crying. Damn, I was not prepared for that, but I was going to have to talk to her eventually. I got to the door and knocked on it. Jessalyn didn't even bother to look up at me. She kept her hands over her face, sobbing to herself. My eyes traveled to her belly, and I saw that it was patched up. "Jessalyn." I called her name softly. "Problems again." "Jessalyn, please, just leave me alone," I said to Alias. "I'm not in the mood for company." Jessalyn just, "No, leave me alone, Alias." I dropped my hands and turned my eyes to him. All he could do was put his hands in his pocket and lean against the door. That frustrated me even more with him. The fact that he couldn't do anything to make things right. "What would you like me to do?" he asked me. I shook my head. It wasn't going to bring our child right back, so there was nothing he could do. To be honest, I wanted my space. Me being around him was making me more angrier than I felt at that moment. A knock came on the door, and the both of us turned our attention to it. Some woman stood there, looking from me to Alias. "Hey, can we talk?" she asked him. "Sure," he told her. Before he could even leave the door, I shoved the table towards him. "Really, Alias?" I asked him. "What?" Alias asked me. "You're telling me to leave you alone. What the fuck am I supposed to do? Just stand here and watch you cry? How about you be supportive for fucking once?" Alias stared at me, but didn't say anything. "You crying is not going to bring our child back," he told me. "I'm sorry, but it's not. How heartless are you? You don't even care. I'll talk to you later," the girl said and walked away. Alias closed the door behind him, Then he looked back at me. I do care. Jessalyn, I'm sorry if I'm not about to have a crying festival with you. Tears continued to pour down my face. That was my first child, Alias. Losing it was like losing a piece of my heart. I could understand why you don't feel anything you weren't the one carrying it. Jessalyn, that's not how I feel at all. I'm hurting as much as you, or don't think that I don't care. I sniffled, trying to calm down. Alias came over to me and kneeled beside the bed. I wanted that baby just as much as you did, he whispered to me. His hand traveled to my stomach that was now empty. I didn't feel anything. No movement of fetal heartbeat. Not even that little voice that I heard before. It was all gone. Alias got on the bed with me and held me in his arms. We can try again, he told me. I don't want to right now. Why not? I glanced up at Alias and shrugged my shoulders. What if something happens to that one? Then, I don't even think we're going to be okay with the way we're going. What are we talking about? The constant arguing. How the hell can we even get better if that keeps going on? Alias removed his hand and looked down at me. He lifted my chin up and we both stared at each other for a moment. No relationship perfect, Jess. He stated, I'm not the best guy in the world, but I do care for you. I want us to be together, and when the time is right, we'll have another child. He released my chin, but I couldn't take my eyes off him. I just wanted to know if his words were true. I sighed before a yawn escaped my lips. Alias got off the bed and helped me lay down. Then he sat on the end by my feet. Do you still want to get married? Alias finally asked me. Once you heal, we can still do that. If you want to. I told him. Alias sighed. Jessalyn, I'm trying here. Why? It's clear it's not really what you want to do. I understand you're trying to make me feel better. But if it's what you don't want to do, then don't bring it up. You don't know what the fuck I want to do, so stop doing that shit. Whatever. He shook his head and got off the bed. I guess you're going to talk to your girlfriend now. He paused and glanced my way. No, I'm going to deal with this fucking wolf that Lucas threw at me. I closed my mouth and watched him leave. As I laid down, trying to get some rest, there was a knock at the door. I sighed and closed my eyes. What? I asked, not paying attention. I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for your loss. That unfamiliar voice said. I sat up, groaning from the pain, before I turned and looked at the door. The girl that was trying to talk to Alias was standing there with her hands together. Her fingers intertwined as she looked from me down to the floor. She made me so jealous. Whoever she was stunning. Beautiful bright complexion, gray eyes, beautiful plump lips with a beauty mark beside it. Her breasts sat perfectly on her chest, and her figure wasn't too big, but wasn't too petite. Who are you? I asked her. Oh, I'm sorry, she said, walking into the room, coming closer to the bed. My name's Natalie. You're another contract. Huh, I was. However, we canceled it. Why? Well, I was dating someone who turned out to be a complete asshole, and I terminated the contract. He agreed, because he said he met someone. That made me feel somewhat good on the inside. She sat beside me on the bed and sighed. What happened? She asked me. I looked down at my stomach and sighed. I was impaled by a tree. I whispered. She didn't say anything, but her wide-eyed expression said it all. I know you're hurting, she replied afterwards. It's not the pain of the tree, though. It's the fact that I lost the baby. I know. Natalie pressed her hand on my stomach. What are you doing? Alias asked as soon as he came into the room. Natalie got up and turned to him. I was talking to her, Natalie said. Keep your hands off her, Alias demanded. I wasn't doing anything bad, Alias. I don't care. How about you go entertain Aiden's lonely ass? Even that comment took me back. Natalie shook her head and walked out of the room. I turned my eyes to Alias and shook my head at him. What? He asked me, leaning against the door. You didn't have to be rude to her, I told him. And why is that? Because she's done nothing wrong. Why would you want to talk to her? Because it's nice to talk to someone instead of being in this lonely-ass room. He chuckled. So, you feel comfortable talking to my ex, right? Is that what you're telling me? Wow, that's some insane shit. Why? It's better than talking to the man who killed his own child. I closed my mouth immediately when I saw the expression on his face. Alias, I didn't mean that. I told him, trying my hardest to take those words back. That's how you feel. Alias, I'm sorry. You know what, Jessalyn? Fuck you, okay? You're not shit, anyways. He turned and stormed out of the room. I took a deep breath and got out of the bed as slowly as I could. I needed to let him know that I didn't mean anything by it. It was just a slip of the tongue. As I got out of the room, I turned the corner. I saw Aiden, Adonis, and Mia talking to one another. What are you doing out of bed? Mia asked me. Have you seen Alias? I asked them. Yeah, he left in a hurry. Adonis said. I saw him standing by his car, and as I got closer to the door, I stopped. He was talking to Natalie about something, and I wished I could hear what they were saying. But from what I was seeing, they were laughing and joking with one another. You need to go back to bed, Naomi told me. Alias stopped smiling, and his attention was on me now. Yeah, I saw how he got down, and I was completely done. It was a huge mistake to think that he would change. Once I healed up, I was done. I was going to move the fuck out. She could have him for all I cared. Dumped. Alias, are you okay? Natalie asked as we stood by my car. I hated to admit it, but Jessalyn had me mad that very moment. Putting the blame on me for the death of our child was hard for me to hear come out of her mouth. Pissed off, I decided I needed to go somewhere to calm down. However, that fucking dog wasn't going to let me do any of that by myself. As soon as I was ready to get into my car, Lincoln walked up behind me, leaving somebody. He asked me. I was hoping to. I told him as I got into the car and started it up. But since you're here, you can come with me. Lincoln huffed before he walked over to the passenger side of my car and got in. Once he shut the door, I closed mine and rolled the window down, turning my attention to Natalie. Have Aiden take you home, okay? I asked him. I need to go somewhere. Oh, I could wait for you to get back. She smiled at me. I smiled back at her. Sure, I told her, then pulled away from the clinic. I sped away as fast as I could, and as soon as the clinic wasn't in my rearview mirror, a sigh of relief was heard. Where does Lucas want me to start? I asked Lincoln. I don't even know. Lincoln stated. He wanted me to just be with you wherever you decided to go. Well, we need to go eat, then. I could feel Lincoln glance my way before he shook his head and turned to the other side of him. I can't believe Lucas put you with me. I sighed. Feeling is mutual. Lincoln stated. Once this shit of his is done, we can go our separate way. I chuckled. That's if I don't kill you before I return you to your rightful owner. Lincoln chuckled, but I looked over an NJMNJKI. At him, I saw a small smile out the corner of his mouth. What did these guys do to Lucas anyways? I asked curiously. Well, one of them insulted his daughter, Luna. Lincoln explained. However, I just think that Lucas doesn't like them due to them being a small, powerful pack. What the hell? The more I listened to Lincoln, the more I hated Lucas with a passion. He was being childish, and what's worse is that he brought me in it. Rolling my eyes, I continued to keep them on the road. No more accidents for me, I thought to myself. That first one hurted something terrible. I think the last time I heard, they were in California. They're somewhere in the Los Angeles area. They're not too far from us. When are you going? Right now. I'm not in a rush. Lincoln sighed, but didn't say anything else. While driving to grab some food, a text came onto my phone. When I got to the red light, I decided to pull my phone out to check the message. As soon as I opened the message, I quickly read it and huffed. It was a breakup text from Jessalyn. Fucking bitch, I mumbled. Girlfriend problems. I ignored him. Seeing that fucking message really agitated me. I decided to call Adonis and see what was going on back there. Cousin, what's up? Adonis asked. Did Jessalyn leave? I asked. Yeah, Mia took her to your house. Whatever. Adonis sighed. What's going on with you two? He finally asked. She's fucking annoying. That's what's wrong. I snarled. Dude, chill out. She just lost your fucking child. Don't you even give a damn that a life you created is no longer around? First Jessalyn and now Adonis. I didn't have time for that shit. Where are you at anyways? Adonis questioned. None of your damn business. I told him. Go hang out with your girl and Jessalyn for the day. I have things to do. Alias, don't be like that I'm just saying. She's hurting, cut her some slack, okay? Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Why is that? I sighed, holding the phone close to my ear. We broke up. I told him. When? Just now. She sent me a long-ass text saying that she felt I wasn't happy with her and that I was afraid to show emotion. She said that she felt that I would never be ready to be with her in a way that a man should be with a woman. Wow. Yup. What are you going to do? The fuck? Nothing. I'm going to do what I always do. Live my life and make money. Alias. What? Ugh, never mind. Adonis was worried about the wrong thing. I would talk to Jessalyn later, but I had other things to do. And it revolved around dealing with those fucking dogs. Right here. Lincoln told me. Wait, are you with Lucas guy? Adonis asked. Yeah, we're going to grab something to eat. Wow, really? Since when did you two hang out? Since I don't have to hear him complain to me about a bitch. Alias. Shut up. I wanted to get ahead on this damn plan. Why you didn't bring me? Because. I could hear the agitation in that groan. I chuckled as I pulled into a spot at a restaurant. I looked over at Lincoln and sighed. Is this place good? I asked him. Yeah, it is. He answered before he got out of the car. I'll talk to you later. I said to Adonis. Where are you at? Let me meet with you. No, I'm going to do this without you. I guess. I hung up the phone before I got out the car myself, placing the phone quickly in my pocket. Lincoln had already went inside. I scanned the area, making sure I wasn't in enemy territory. There were both there, though. Vampires and wolves came to the place. Some friends and some by themselves. It made me feel, at least, a bit welcome. The place I walked up to looked like one of those car-themed restaurants. I grabbed the door to the place and walked in. My eyes scanned the packed place until I saw Lincoln sitting at a booth by himself. Sighing, I walked over to him and took my seat across from where he was sitting. I take it you didn't choose this place because of its looks, I stated. Lincoln put the menu down and smiled. I actually came here to see someone, he admitted. It's been a good 2 years since I joined Lucas' pack, and I haven't been able to see her. Her. My mate. I was going to ask him about that until I saw a woman walk over to the table. She was gorgeous, and the way she stared at him, I was able to see the hurt in her eyes. Lincoln got up, and immediately she wrapped her arms around his neck. Damn, just watching the two made me jealous. A waitress came by giving us both some water. Then she smiled at me before disappearing over to the kitchen. I drank from the cup as I watched Lincoln make out with his girl for the longest time. I missed you, Lincoln told her. I missed you too. She sighed. How did you get over here? Does Lucas know you're visiting me? No, and don't worry. He won't know. That made me suspicious. I wondered why he wasn't able to see his mate. Was Lucas forbidding that from happening? Who's this? The girl asked. I glanced up and Lincoln sighed. This Alias. Lincoln introduced to her. We have some business to handle, but we stopped to eat before we did it. Vin Black. The girl asked. You guys own the blood banks everywhere. Yes, we do. The girl nodded. Thanks for bringing him over here to see me, the girl said. To be honest, I didn't even know, but I decided to just go with the flow. No problem, I told her. Lincoln pressed his mouth to the girl's neck for a second. Then he lifted his head and gazed into her eyes. How are the kids? He asked her. They miss their daddy, she said. Sasha, I'm sorry, I'll try to come over tonight. Sure, we don't have to start everything until tomorrow. I'll drop you off, if that's what you want. Lincoln glanced over at me and nodded. I could see the seriousness in his face. There were so many questions I had for the guy who was being my partner. Sasha kissed Lincoln on the lips before she pulled away from him. I have to get back to work. Sasha told him, I'll see you later and nice meeting you in person, Alias. You too, I told her. She walked off and Lincoln watched her leave before he sat down and drank some of his water. When she disappeared, he turned his eyes to me. Why were you being nice? He asked me. Because I felt I needed to. I told him. I do have questions, though. What? Why does Lucas keep you from your girl? Lincoln raised his eyebrows at me. Because of what you did to him. Ever since Natalie was taken from his arms, he banned us from seeing our mates. We had to work them out of our minds. I could see why Lincoln hated me. Not ever did I mean to keep him from his mate. Hell, it wasn't even supposed to affect them. My bad, I told him. I didn't know he would do that over a girl. Well, Natalie was his mate. So, of course, he would. Now, it made sense why Lucas came after Jessalyn. He knew that I cared for her, and that I would come for her. The same waitress came back with a notepad and a pen. What can I get you guys? She asked us. Shit, I was so deep in thought I forgot to choose my food. Can we get the baked salmon with rice and asparagus? Lincoln ordered. A bloody margarita for him, and I'll take a regular for myself. Sure. The waitress agreed. Lincoln handed her his menu, and when I handed my menu to her, her fingers caressed mine as soon as we touched. She bit her lip at me before she turned and walked off. Lincoln chuckled at the whole thing. I see you have a fan, he told me. Nothing new, I replied. I can't lie, though. She's very cute. Well, You're single now, what are you going to do? He was right. I was single. The thing was, I didn't want to mess with multiple girls anymore. I needed to talk to Jessalyn and make things right. She was a good person, and there was some things I needed to tell her. Seeing how she was free from me, I hated the feeling. I didn't want anybody talking to her. I needed her to be mine once again. I got up from the table and removed my wallet. I handed him a few dollars that would be enough to cover the meal. Have your girl eat with you? I told him. Are you sure? Positive. Also, can you get a ride with her if I don't make it back? Where are you going? I smiled and backed away. I have someone to see. Lincoln nodded and he turned to the back. I turned around and rushed out of the restaurant. I ran to my car and got in. Then, I started the car up and pulled out of the parking lot. As I sped off back to my house, I reached into my pocket and grabbed my phone out. Then, I dialed Jessalyn's number. It rang 4 times before it went straight to voicemail. Fuck. I cursed. I dialed her number repeatedly until she finally answered the phone. When I was about to say something, I stopped when I heard a soft moan coming from her own mouth. Immediately, that caused my blood to boil. Accused. Jessalyn. Oh, fuck. I moaned out in pain as I tried to get out of bed to grab my phone. I couldn't even walk as fast as I wanted to. The emergency C-section that they gave me, plus the stitches, was bothering me. There was no way of me walking at a regular pace. When I got to the small table in Alias' room, I groaned. I missed the call, and when I saw that Alias blew my phone up, I was agitated. Yeah, we broke up, but I felt that I should have done it normally. A text was not the way to do it. So, I figured out we could have a talk and see where things would go. As I was ready to dial his number back, I heard a loud pounding sound coming from downstairs. When I slowly walked to the bedroom door, I heard another loud, hard knock. Ugh, why didn't I stay downstairs? I groaned. I left the room, moaning and groaning from the pain. Once I stepped foot down the first steps, I whined. I never knew a C-section could be that horrible. Being cut open was not a good thing, especially since they had to remove a child from within along with the pieces of tree branches. Coming! I shouted. More knocking and more pounding was heard, and I was ready to cuss whoever it was. The fuck out. When I got to the last steps, I took a deep breath before I headed towards the door. I grabbed the door handle and I opened the door up. Alias stood there with an angry expression on his face. He pushed past me, causing me to gasp. Did he fucking forget what I just went through? I turned around and watched as Alias began searching the house. He ran up the stairs fast, checking all the rooms and bathrooms. I closed the door before I went towards the bottom of the stairs. What are you doing? I asked him. He ignored me. He just kept searching everything. As soon as he got to the bottom of the stairs, I stopped him. He just glared at me, and I wasn't sure why. Alias, what's wrong? I asked him. Alias walked down towards me, and I backed away. He walked me towards the front door and sighed. What's wrong? I asked him. You had somebody here. He asked me. I stared at him confused. Alias, it's just been me here. I told him. Who would I have inside of your house besides Mia? Alias backed up and sighed. I don't know, he said. You tell me. When his eyes scanned mine, I shook my head at him. I'm sorry, are you thinking that I cheated on you? Well, you dumped me, so I wouldn't be surprised if you had a side to push up. I chuckled and moved away from the door. Alias, are you fucking kidding me right now? Do you really want to accuse me of cheating? Alias folded his arms, not saying a word. I've been faithful to you since we've hooked up. I shouted, nobody has fucked me, except for you. You sure about that? I'm fucking positive. Then, what the hell was that moaning on the phone? Then. What fucking moan? When? Alias walked to the wall, slamming his fist into it. I know you're not fucking stupid. I pointed to my body. I know he didn't think this was painless. Don't fucking disrespect me. I have the right to be angry at your ass. For what? Because of our child's death. I'm sorry, but you have every fault as I do. How? I didn't ram the car into a fucking big-ass tree. Alias walked over to me. His face was anything but happy. Like you didn't help in the matter, Jessalyn. Excuse me? Alias balled his fist up. You want to put the blame on it being just me, but you were the reason why I crashed. Why me? Because you was fucking arguing with me in the fuck car. You just couldn't shut the fuck up, could you? No, you kept going on, and I got so fucking annoyed that I glanced your way. It just so happened that I lost sight of the fucking road. I couldn't help it. My eyes watered after he said that. Yeah, we argued, but me telling you how I felt was the reason. I wiped my eyes and Alias stopped talking before releasing a loud sigh. Jessalyn. He reached for me, but I smacked his hand away. Don't touch me. I sniffled. Please, just don't touch me. I tried to walk away, but Alias grabbed me and pulled me back to him. Look, I'm sorry, he said. No, Alias. I'm sick of this. You questioned me at the wrong time. I didn't know Jess. I was just. He stopped talking, and I waited for him to tell me how he felt. You were what, Alias? I don't know. Oh my God, Alias, would you just say it? I fucking don't want you with nobody else. Okay. He stared at me for a second after he said it. Then he turned and walked up the stairs. I wanted to follow him, but I had to stay downstairs on the couch. Once I got to the sofa, I grabbed the arm of the couch before I sat down. I hissed from the staples that was poking me. I turned my body to the side and placed both of my legs on the couch as well. Now, I was comfortable. My eyes scanned my area for the remote. I smacked my lips when I noticed it on the TV stand. Fuck me, I whispered. I couldn't even try to get up for myself. There was no point in asking Alias for help either. He was already in a bad mood. Rolling my eyes, I decided to lay down and go to sleep. I woke up to someone carrying me up the stairs. Alias. I called his name in a calm tone. Calm down, Alias said as soon as he hit the top of the stairs. Let's get washed up and then into bed. My eyes traveled up to his, but he didn't even bother to look my way. He carried me to the bathroom and sat me down on the toilet. He removed my clothes and I covered up immediately. I didn't want him to see me with that horrible bandage that was placed in the middle of my stomach. I glanced up at Alias, who just stood there staring at me. I can't get the bandages wet. I told him softly. That's okay. He told me. I'll just wash you up. Let me get you a towel and washcloth. He walked out of the bathroom, and I sniffled a little bit as my hand traveled over the bandages. I hated the pain, but what I hated most was the empty stomach. I missed knowing that I had a little person inside of me. Now, I didn't have anything, and I wasn't sure I would even experience motherhood at all. I was going to be infertile, one of the biggest fears of my life. I wiped the streaming tears from my face, and I felt a pair of arms wrap around me. I'm sorry, Jessalyn, Alias whispered to me. "I'm so sorry." Him apologizing to me made me cry even harder. I buried my face into his shirt, and he didn't shove me or move me away. He just let me cry all of the pain I felt out that day. "I need to wash you up," Alias whispered. Nodding my head, we released each other, and I let Alias deal with the rest. Once he placed me in the tub, I stood there letting him wash all the dirt and sadness away. Then he took me out and placed me in a t-shirt, and then he helped me put on my underwear with a pad in it. "Are you embarrassed?" I asked him. "What do you mean?" "You're putting a menstrual pad on me, doesn't that make you uncomfortable?" Alias looked up at me and shook his head. "No," he told me. "Why should I be? I knew you were going to need help." He got up and picked me up again. Then he carried me out of the bathroom. He brought me into his room and placed me on my side of the bed. He made it to where he was comfortable, and then he walked out towards the bedroom door. "I have to clean the bathroom, so I'll be back," he told me. I smiled and nodded my head. As he left, I was wondering if I could get that same Alias that I just witnessed. It felt nice to have him being kind and sweet to me. I wondered how long that would last.